Hello folks, welcome to OTD, also known as On the Deck, where you can get all the sports you need in 10 minutes. My name is Adam Orduna, this is my mom Gina.
He is the journalist.
And she's the enthusiast.
I am, you know why? Because it's not my sweater that makes me enthusiastic, it's almost Christmas. And
right.
That's why I'm enthusiastic.
Yes, we are just days before the big holiday, and so there's a lot of happiness and joy, and I do love your attire for this show.
And
it is very appropriate.
These are little bows.
And we do still have some snow and some ice around, so it's still very festive, and it is actually really cold.
It's not freezing like it was the other day, but it's cold.
It is cold. Well,
with
our show today, we've kind of got a tough one to talk about, and our show is based on controversial topics within sports, and so this is no different. And so what we are going to talk about today is athletes or players with second opportunities or second chances within things that they may have done or have been charged with. And so there have been a couple incidences recently, one with dealing with a college basketball player, one with dealing with an NFL football player, and then lastly, one dealing with a college football player. And so we're going to kind of just talk about those three, but I guess it's more in just general how you just have to kind of look at things case by case.
Right. Are athletes treated differently?
Are athletes treated differently? And are they held to a higher standard, or are they just someone that they can just do whatever they want to, good, bad, right, or wrong? So we're going to kind of talk about those.
Yes.
Well, first off, I think number one, I think a lot of it has to deal with culture and wherever you're at, whatever team or organization or program that you're associated with, what is the culture like there? Do they rule with an iron fist? Are they player friendly? Are they super lax and lenient, or are they to the letter of the law, straight laced, no excuses? I think that's a big part of why or what happens with certain athletes. Wherever they're at, the culture is set that they can do certain things or can't. And so let's talk about Grayson Allen. He's the guard, the junior guard for Duke.
Yes.
And a lot of people kind of look at him as a villain type of player, falls in line with a lot of the Duke players. He's been caught in games tripping players, blatantly tripping players. It's not like, when you're running down the court and you're both going for a ball and your feet get tangled up. No, he is literally stretching out his foot to trip the other players on the opposing team. And he's one of these kids that has done very well up to this point in his career, but he's gotten away with these types of things over and over again. And Coach K is in the basketball Mount Rushmore as far as coaches and personnel.
Coach K.
He's a great guy, and we all love him.
He reminds me of the Count from Sesame Street.
You're right. Well, he has allowed this to happen, and I think he may have a special place for Grayson in his heart or whatever, but he's allowed this to happen. And essentially what happened last night or the other night in the game, Grayson was getting beat on the baseline, and he was frustrated, and he tripped another player, and when he was taken out, he melted down. He self-destructed, and it was very hard to watch because it was like such a great player was really just losing it. And so as you go with this, talking about this, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think needs to happen for him? Do you think he needs to be suspended for super long, or is it just, hey, when they kumbaya with him? What do you think needs to happen with him to maybe help him, or why do you think he's getting away with these types of things?
Well, let me start by saying I wouldn't deign to tell Coach K what to do with any of his athletes.
Right.
I will say this: I don't think Grayson Allen is a super villain.
Right.
I know it's easy to do that. I hate Christian Laettner thing, the Duke players and all that. I think he is a kid who with a really high motor, who runs with a really hot temper.
Yes.
I have personally coached some kids like that. Certainly not to that level. I'm not putting him on blast, but we've seen kids who do that. And in the heat of the game, they do things that are acting out and being childish. Now, when he got to the sidelines and couldn't pull it back together, I think that was indicative that there might be some other issues they need to work on. And I believe as of today, they've gone ahead and suspended him indefinitely.
Yes.
I hope that indefinite doesn't mean the rest of the season or his life. I think they're saying, look, we're going to take a timeout so we can help you figure out how you can play with passion and not anger. How you can be frustrated without throwing a full out fit. So I'm hoping that's that's what happened. And I think, honestly, I don't want him tripping my kid and tearing up his knee, but I think that I don't want to make too much of that. I think that it's a case-by-case individual thing, and I'm proud of Coach K because he still put him back in last night saying, look, I still believe in you. And I feel like what Duke is probably doing is saying, how do we help this kid in general? Because there's clearly some other issues.
Okay, well, I think that's, no, I agree with that. I don't think he's a villain. I think he just plays with a high motor, as you said. He's a very passionate player. He's a good player, and I think he will have a chance in the NBA. But these are types of things that you don't really expect from Duke players. I think
some people do.
Well,
I'm
going to say, I think
completely the devil altogether.
It's good for the Duke team to have these players because of how hard it is to get in there, and you know, they're seen as basically an Ivy League school. You know, so generally when you think of people that go to these types of schools, they're very straight-laced and things like that. So to have a player that's willing to kind of be expressive as he is, I think it helps them and gives them another edge to their team. So I just think, again, I don't think he needs to be completely destroyed by it, but I think, you know, in a different setting, maybe things would be handled differently with a different coach and a different program. So I don't know. Again, case by case. Well, and
I know we're getting short on time, but I think the other one we need to talk about is what happened with Joe Mixon
in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, he's a football player, and you know I don't want to get into the details of it. Clearly, you can watch the video. I just watched it. I've been hearing about it, but I just watched it, and I do not want to comment on it at all. What I do want to talk about is the disciplining of the athlete, because I think that's really what the topic is. And really, do they deserve second chances or what have you? He was punished according to both the law in Oklahoma. This case went before a judge. And he was punished by the football program and the athletic department. The fact that the video has now come to light and people now want to retroactively go back and excoriate him and shame the program. And listen, there was a judge involved, there was an AD involved, a coach involved, and punishment meted out. All of that already happened. So for me, I feel like with athletes, it's almost like people want their pound of flesh. It's never enough until we've ruined them, till we've Ray Riced them, taken away every opportunity they ever have. It's never enough. And I do have a problem with that. And I look at what Duke's doing. I'm hoping, I don't know, but I'm hoping they pull Grayson Allen out and they're going to help him. I think with Mixon, he already missed a full year of being a part of that program. And so whether you like the punishment or not, he was already punished. He was dealt with before the law, and I think you have to move on. That's honestly, in this case, I think it's time to allow him to move forward in his life. Especially after 2 years.
I totally agree, and it's a sad situation. It's a tough situation to talk about, and so there's a lot of feelings, and a lot of people have their own opinions, and so we won't really get to that depth of it, but I agree. I think at this point in time, if justice has already been served as far as the law and the suspension, we need to let him be a new person, a new player. So again, that's an unfortunate situation for him, and hopefully he can just better himself.
And let me say this: I know it's hard for you to talk about because you've never put your hands on a woman. You've been raised never to do that. We're raising your younger brother to do that. I'm your mom. You have a sister. You respect your grandma. So I get that. That's why we're not talking about it. We're not trying to dance around it, but it's not a topic we want to touch because we don't want to give the impression in any way, shape, or form that we're giving a pass to violence or violence towards women. This is specifically about people trying to relitigate. Last I checked, no one invented a time machine. None of you can jump back to 2014 and try to relitigate the punishment for him. At this point, just because you've now seen the video doesn't mean you get to retroactively now, ruin his life. He's already been punished. That's all. I guess my point is.
No, and to the question is, do athletes get certain treatment? And I don't know if there's a great answer for it. I think you could say yes and no. And this last one that we want to talk about is Michael Floyd, who was a really good football player. He was a receiver for Notre Dame, got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, has been a really good productive receiver for them. This is his second DUI incident, but we all know the legal limit is 0.08 as far as alcohol content. He blew a 0.217, which is almost like triple the amount that you're supposed to have. In this day and age where there's Uber and Lyft, and when you're a professional athlete, there really is an excuse to be driving behind the wheel when you're intoxicated. And so it's one of these situations where the New England Patriots now picked him up, and they now have him on the roster. And you look at it, and it's like, how is that fair for certain players to get away with those types of things, and you just wonder, is this preferential treatment? A lot of people saying, oh, well, New England is just waiting for the courts to make their decision on him, but until that happens, he is fair and has the green light to play. Again, I don't know exactly. I think there are a lot of questions that can be raised about the integrity of certain programs, but at the same time, it's like, do you believe in second chances, and is it okay to try to help somebody when you know that they're struggling? And so it's just a big question, and that's why we brought this up, because there's a lot of incidences where you have to say, hey, case by case situation, look at their history, their track record, and for first-time offenders, hey, that's one thing. For multiple repeated actions, I think it's hard for someone to feel validated when, hey, how can they continue to get away with these types of things? And so it's just a very tough subject.
I was going to agree with you, and then that's the last thing I'm going to say, because I know we're running out of time. But in the Christmas spirit, I would say this. I think I agree with you 100%. It's case by case. And first chances, people are allowed to make mistakes in their flesh and their humanness. Athletes, when it becomes repeated patterns of behavior, then you must intervene. And for me, I just feel like maybe we all need to take a deep breath, stop judging everyone from what we read across Twitter, Facebook, social media, or what you're fed
anything you read in the newspaper,
and understand that there's human beings behind every one of these stories. So that's my take on it.
I think that's a great way to end the show.
And a Merry Christmas to
all. We just want to say, continue to follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We are really excited to continue to bring you more. We have our Twitter handles live and updated every day, so continue to follow us, and we'll see you next time, folks.